Elizabeth and Henry met one sunny afternoon in the warm parks of Riverside City. Elizabeth, with her bright smile and curious eyes, was sketching the view around her. She loved art and had a gentle, thoughtful personality. Henry, on the other hand, was full of energy. He had a contagious laugh and a passion for sports. He enjoyed running, basketball, and anything that got his heart racing. It was easy to see their differences, yet something unusual brought them together. Henry noticed Elizabeth sitting quietly on a bench, lost in her creativity. He was instantly drawn to her calm spirit. His heart raced, not just from excitement but from a desire to know her better. Approaching with a friendly smile, he asked about her artwork. Elizabeth looked up, surprised yet pleased. They spent hours talking about art, sports, and dreams. They quickly realized they understood each other on a deeper level. As their relationship began to bloom, Elizabeth appreciated Henry's outgoing nature. He made her laugh and pushed her to try new things. Henry, meanwhile, admired Elizabeth's ability to see the beauty in every moment. She taught him to slow down and appreciate life. Together, they created a safe space filled with laughter, support, and mutual respect. However, as they grew closer, they faced challenges. Henry's need for adventure sometimes clashed with Elizabeth's desire for peace and routine. While they both loved each other, they had to learn how to communicate openly about their feelings and needs. This brought emotional lessons wrapped in care. It was the beginning of a heartfelt journey of love, where both would learn the true meaning of compromise and understanding in their emotional bond. As weeks turned into months, Elizabeth and Henry enjoyed their time together, but clouds soon appeared in their sunny relationship. One evening, after a fun day with friends, Elizabeth felt something shift. She smiled and laughed like always, but inside, she started to feel a touch of sadness, an emotional distance that made her heart ache. Henry had been busy with basketball practice and late-night games. He was so caught up in his world that he wasn't noticing Elizabeth. In those moments when they were together, Elizabeth felt like she was on the outside, looking in. Signs of this growing disconnect began to show. When Henry would talk about his latest achievements, Elizabeth found it hard to share her own feelings. She wanted to say how proud she was of him, but she also needed him to notice her need for attention and affection. However, instead of speaking up, she chose to stay quiet. This silence felt heavy between them like a thick fog. Henry noticed that something seemed off about Elizabeth. He could tell she wasn't as cheerful as before. Often, when he joked or teased her, her laughter felt forced. They spent a lot of time watching movies together, and Elizabeth's eyes would sometimes drift away, lost in thoughts he couldn't understand. He worried that he was doing something wrong but felt unsure about how to bring it up. One rainy afternoon, Henry decided to approach Elizabeth. He thought it would be nice to create a cozy space to talk, so he prepared hot chocolate and placed it in front of her. Sitting closely, he asked, "What's on your mind? You seem a bit distant lately." His tone was warm, filled with genuine concern. Elizabeth's heart raced. She wanted to express her feelings, but old fears of being misunderstood crept in. She took a deep breath, letting the steam from her mug kiss her face, and said quietly, "I just feel, well, it seems like you're really busy and don't have time for us. I miss talking about our days like we used to." Henry's expression shifted, not quite understanding. He felt defensive. "But I've been practicing hard for the team. Can't you be proud of that?" His words came out a bit sharper than intended, as he was surprised by Elizabeth's concern. Tension filled the room. Elizabeth's heart sank. She felt even more disconnected, as if the wall between them grew thicker. "I am proud of you, really," Elizabeth replied softly. "It's just that sometimes I feel like I am alone." Instead of helping, their communication still felt muddled. Henry wanted to explain that he cared for her, but instead, he focused on his frustration about feeling pressured to choose between his passions and Elizabeth. They ended up in a swirl of sharp words and quiet sobs. After that day, both Elizabeth and Henry took time away, reflecting on their feelings. They each felt a mix of frustration and longing. Henry feared losing Elizabeth, and Elizabeth worried that her feelings were too much for him. They wanted to fix things but didn't know yet how to bridge the emotional gap. The distance between them felt heavy, filled with unspoken words, leaving their hearts in a state of uncertainty. Both knew they loved each other, but they were struggling to find common ground, a task that no athlete could practice, no art could capture, but only true love could mend. As time passed, Elizabeth and Henry continued to struggle with their differences, but life decided to add more challenges to the mix. One weekend, they attended a party hosted by one of Henry's friends. The room buzzed with laughter, music, and joy. Elizabeth tried to enjoy herself, but as she looked around, she noticed a girl flirting with Henry. Her laugh rang like the chime of a bell, and Henry seemed to be enjoying the attention. A wave of jealousy washed over Elizabeth. Even though she trusted Henry, the warmth of that moment felt like a chill in the air. Instead of speaking to Henry about her feelings, Elizabeth kept quiet. She sipped her drink, forcing herself to smile, but inside, a storm brewed. Each time she caught a glimpse of Henry laughing with the girl, her heart sank a little more. Henry, on the other hand, was completely unaware of Elizabeth's growing discomfort. He was caught up in the fun of the party, feeling confident in his social skills. He enjoyed the conversations and felt happy chatting with everyone, including the girl. When Henry glanced back at Elizabeth and saw her with a tight smile, he didn't understand that something was bothering her. Instead, he thought she was simply shy in a crowd. After the party, feelings festered between them, like unhealed wounds. The next day, Elizabeth could barely meet Henry's eyes at breakfast. The walls around her heart felt thick and heavy. Henry's laughter from the party echoed in her mind. Finally, she decided it was time to express what she felt. "I didn't like how you were with that girl last night," Elizabeth finally said, trying to keep her voice steady. Henry blinked, surprised. "What do you mean?" "We were just talking," he replied. Confusion marked his face. "You know I wouldn't cheat on you. I care about you." Her heart raced, but she pressed on. "I know you wouldn't cheat, but it hurts seeing you enjoy someone else's attention. I just wanted to feel special, too." Instead of connecting over feelings, the conversation took a sharp turn. Henry felt defensive, and words formed like a wall around him. "Elizabeth, I can't help if people find me friendly. That doesn't mean I love you any less. You are the one I care about, and I thought you could at least trust me." Elizabeth felt the swell of anger mixed with sadness. "This isn't about trust. It's about togetherness. I wish I felt you notice me, not just when the spotlight is on you." The argument intensified, with both speaking from hurt instead of understanding. They exchanged words filled with frustration, and grudges that built up over time surfaced, pushing them further apart. In their minds, images of the past echoed, moments of love tinged with miscommunication and the growing city of insecurities each had built around their hearts. Without realizing, Elizabeth and Henry had locked themselves in a cycle of emotional strain, pushing each other away when all they really wanted was to draw closer. With long silences in the air, they started to withdraw, creating invisible barriers, not out of love, but out of fear. Although they were together, it felt like they were on different roads, heading in different directions. Yet deep down, beneath layers of confusion and pain, both yearned for the closeness they once shared. They needed to learn how to bridge the divide, starting from within themselves, tiny reminders that even the strongest connections can face storms. One bleak evening, the tension that had been brewing between Elizabeth and Henry burst into a full-blown storm. They sat in Elizabeth's cozy living room, which felt unusually cold with their unspoken feelings hovering in the air. After a long day filled with frustration at work, Elizabeth came home feeling heavy. The silence between them was thick and uncomfortable, as they both avoided looking at each other. Finally, the silence became unbearable. Elizabeth stood up, her emotions bubbling over. "Why can't you see how hurt I am?" she blurted out, her voice shaking. "It's like you only care about your own feelings. I feel so alone." Henry jumped to his feet, eyes wide. "What about me? Do you ever think about how I feel? I'm trying to be there for you, but it seems like nothing I do is enough." His voice rose sharply, full of anger, frustration, and confusion. "You think it's all about you?" Elizabeth shot back. "I've spent my time trying to support you, but I feel pushed aside. You are always off with your friends, and when I finally say something, you turn it into an argument. You don't even care." Her words landed like stones, leaving Henry feeling wounded. "How could you say that? I've changed so much for you," he exclaimed, his face flushed with emotion. "I have given up time with friends just to spend time with you." "No, you haven't," Elizabeth said, tears welling in her eyes. "You think showing up to a few dinners makes up for the times you left me alone? You hardly ask what I want anymore." Their words changed from statements of concern to accusations filled with hurt. They began to tread in dangerous waters, saying things they'd later regret. Henry lashed out, "You're so insecure. If you were more confident, you'd see that I love you. This is your problem, not mine." Elizabeth felt her heart shatter at his harsh words. "You don't get it. I'm not insecure because of me, I'm insecure because of how you act sometimes. I need you to choose me, but it feels like you only care about your own needs." As the emotional weight of the conversation deepened, feelings of anger and frustration transformed into deep sadness. Henry crumpled into a chair, hiding his face. "Why can't you just trust me?" he whispered, his voice breaking. Elizabeth felt the familiar sting of tears but fought to keep them back. "I want to trust you, Henry. But when you brush off my feelings and surround yourself with others, I can't help but feel unwanted." Their conversation spiraled further, filled with raw emotions that left them both breathless. They had crossed lines they didn't mean to step over, tearing tender feelings with careless words. In that moment, sitting in the fading light of a cold evening, they stood on opposite sides of a vast emotional canyon, their hearts aching as possibility slipped away. Each was lost, caught in dark thoughts that deepened the silence even more. Love mingled with anger, and both were left to wonder how to climb over the walls they had built. The night slipped into an uneasy quiet, echoing the unsaid words that clung to the corners of the room. After the stormy argument, Elizabeth retreated to her bedroom, feeling both defeated and confused. She sat on her bed, the weight of her emotions tangling in her mind. The room was dim, suffocating her with silence. Elizabeth picked up her journal and began to write. The soft scratch of her pencil against the paper helped clear her head. As she wrote, Elizabeth replayed their fight over and over. Each word felt sharp, like a knife cutting through her heart. She paused, realizing how often her insecurities got in the way. The truth hit her hard. It wasn't only Henry's actions that made her feel alone, it was her own fears that made their relationship fragile. Did she rely too much on Henry for her happiness? At that moment, a tear slid down her cheek. She didn't want to lose him, but her fears were consuming her. Elizabeth wrote down her feelings. The page filled with words about her wish to feel secure and loved, but she also highlighted her need for self-acceptance. "I want to be strong for both of us," she penned, "but maybe I need to learn to love myself first." While Elizabeth was lost in thought, Henry sat in his living room, staring blankly at the television, the flickering images blurred as they passed by. He couldn't shake the feelings of regret that rolled over him like waves. He drifted into thoughts of their argument, feeling the tension coursing through his veins. He felt angry and hurt, but more than anything, he felt scared at the idea of losing Elizabeth. Picking up his phone, he scrolled through his contacts and hesitated. He needed someone to speak to, someone who could help him understand. Henry sent a message to his friend Ryan, who always seemed to have the right words. Within moments, Ryan responded, inviting him for a quick chat at a nearby cafe. As they settled down with their drinks, Henry spilled his frustration. "I just don't know what to do anymore, Ryan. I love her, but it feels like everywhere I turn, she has something to criticize about me." He felt a weight lift as he voiced his feelings, but his chest tightened with the thought of possibly losing her. "Have you thought about her side?" Ryan asked gently. "Sometimes, we get so focused on our struggles that we forget to see what our partner is going through. Perhaps she's feeling left out. Maybe she needs you to be more supportive, too." Henry sat back, deep in thought. Ryan's words struck him like a lightning bolt. He suddenly remembered how Elizabeth had said she felt alone, and how he hadn't truly seen her need. With urgency, he realized that if they continued down this path, their love could fade away, leaving only hurt behind. After their chat, Henry picked up his notebook, flipping to a blank page as an idea formed in his mind. He began to write down his own feelings like a letter to Elizabeth. He wrote about his love for her and how he wanted to work together to build a stronger bond. He also recognized that he needed to listen more and put aside his doubts to embrace their future. That night, both Elizabeth and Henry were lost in reflection, each penning down insights that opened their eyes to the idea that they couldn't wait for things to change. They needed to face their issues with courage and honesty. The fear of losing each other loomed large, acting as a catalyst for the realization that it was time to confront the problems of their hearts head-on. The next day dawned with a sense of urgency hanging in the air. Elizabeth woke up feeling heavier than usual, knowing they needed to break the cycle of hurt. She looked at the journal beside her and recalled the letters she had written, filled with painful truths and growing hope. With determination, she decided to take a step forward. After an hour of deep breathing, she picked up her phone and began drafting a message to Henry. "Can we talk today? I need to share some thoughts," she typed, pressing send before she could second-guess herself. Henry was in a similar battle of emotions. After his reflective night, he realized something important. He had been so caught up in his world that he forgot to nurture their connection. When he received Elizabeth's message, a wave of relief washed over him. He responded instantly, suggesting they meet at the local park, a spot filled with warm memories of laughter and love. Later that afternoon, they met, both filled with nervous energy. The sun shone brightly, but each felt a storm rumbling in their hearts as they searched for the right words. Elizabeth took a deep breath and started, "I've been thinking a lot about what we fought about. I want to work on my insecurities. I realize I've put too much pressure on you to fill my needs." Henry nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. "And I've realized that I haven't been as supportive as I should. I want you to feel cherished, and I'm so sorry for not seeing how my actions have affected you. I promise to pay more attention, to listen more." In that moment, their emotions shifted. The atmosphere lightened, and they began to talk openly. Words flowed freely, filled with honesty and vulnerability, creating a warm space to heal. They shared their fears and regrets, acknowledging the pain their misunderstandings had caused but also celebrating their commitment to change. Elizabeth suggested they try a new way of communicating. "Maybe we can set aside time each week just to talk. No distractions. We could check in with each other's feelings." Henry smiled, recognizing the wisdom in her suggestion. "I love that idea. It will help us stay connected. We can set our own relationship date, just like dates we have fun while talking about life. Plus, if the world gets too busy, at least we'll have time for each other." With that, they turned a pivotal page in their story. What started as hurt and sadness transformed into a desire for growth and understanding. Henry also suggested they explore the idea of external support. "What if we went to a relationship workshop together? I believe it could help us learn more skills for talking and listening, so we can navigate this together." Elizabeth felt a spark of excitement build in her heart. "I think that's a wonderful idea. I would love to try it." Hours slipped away as they discussed ideas, looking at how they wanted to move forward. Their differences no longer felt like walls but rather stepping stones to a deeper bond. As they walked through the park, hand in hand, their hearts lightened with the knowledge that they were both willing to fight for their love. The turning point had arrived, bathed in the gentle glow of sunlight and healing, and each knew they could not only grow individually but as a team. They were on the path to rediscovering their emotional bond, prepared to face whatever challenges might come their way together. After their heart-to-heart conversation, Elizabeth and Henry felt lighter, yet the path ahead remained a little uncertain. They were eager to put their new commitment into action, but change wouldn't happen overnight. Each day became a new opportunity to practice what they'd promised during their emotional breakthrough. The following week, Elizabeth took the initiative to schedule their first official relationship check-in. They sat together at their favorite cafe, a cozy spot that served warm coffee and pastries. Elizabeth felt a flutter in her stomach as she prepared to talk. Though it was good to open up, she worried she might stumble over her words. "Okay, so this is our first check-in," she began, attempting to sound cheerful despite her anxiety. Henry looked at her with encouraging eyes. "I'm ready when you are," he said with genuine warmth, squeezing her hand in reassurance. With each word, Elizabeth shared her feelings about the past week, including moments when she felt vulnerable or needed extra support. Sometimes, I still feel that little voice in my head saying I'm not enough. I want to share that with you, but it's hard to talk about. Henry nodded, understanding the weight of her honesty. That makes total sense. I want to help you feel more secure. Remember, we're on this journey together. Let's find ways to remind you of that. It was a starting point for both of them, and during the conversation, a sense of purpose filled the air. However, not everything flowed smoothly. As they continued their check-ins week after week, they faced awkward moments that tested their new approach. One evening, when Elizabeth expressed her desire to spend time painting again, Henry responded, "Couldn't we do something more active instead? I was thinking about basketball practice." A faint sting of disappointment washed over Elizabeth, and she felt a familiar hurt rising. "I love being active with you, but my heart needs spending time in a quiet way, too. Can we find a balance?" Henry paused, realizing his response hadn't been very supportive. "You're right. I didn't mean to brush aside your interests. I'll do better." In that moment, he gained insight into his growth work. He was still grappling with his impulsive nature, but he remembered that valuing each other's passions was key to their newfound bond. Another time, during one of their check-ins, Elizabeth attempted to share her thoughts lyrically, wanting to delve deeper into her emotions. Henry stared at her, surprise evident on his face. "I didn't think about it that way," he admitted, his expression shifting from confusion to curiosity. Tentative laughter broke the tension, a soft reminder that they were in this together, navigating each unfamiliar moment. Communicating honestly brought up buried fears, but they slowly learned that vulnerability was an essential part of growing closer. Henry particularly found it difficult sometimes to let down his guard. After branching out to include new activities, he needed nudges to remain open. Late one night, Elizabeth noticed Henry silently doing push-ups while he watched a movie. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, concerned. Henry paused, catching her attention. "I guess. I just feel the urge to handle my stress on my own. I want to be perfect to you," he confessed, vulnerability shining through. "No one is perfect," Elizabeth replied, reaching out to him. "Just be yourself. I want to love you for you." It was in these moments of reflection and adjustment, despite the awkward encounters, where both Elizabeth and Henry began to find their rhythm. With every passing week, they could see the progress, a growing understanding that they were learning to balance their needs while simultaneously supporting one another. Hopeful hearts allowed for patience as they hugged and shared words of encouragement, creating a safer world where both felt free to grow. As the weeks turned into months, Elizabeth and Henry continued working on their relationship together. They found a balance, weaving in new communication skills and habits that slowly deepened their bond. What was once a fragile connection was now starting to feel strong, renewed, and vibrant. One sunny Saturday afternoon, they decided to take a trip to Riverside Park, a place rich with shared memories. The bright colors of the blooming flowers and the laughter of children playing filled the air with a sense of joy. They had planned a simple picnic, sandwiches, fruit, and their favorite cookies, but most importantly, they packed hopes for deeper conversations. While eating, Elizabeth laughed at Henry's silly jokes, recalling days when laugh lines seemed to stretch infinitely. "You always know how to make me smile," she said, her heart swelling with warmth. Henry returned her gaze, and there was a glint of sincerity in his eyes that made her lean in closer. "I want you to know that you can talk to me about anything," he replied. "I mean it. I'm here to support you." The chatter shifted from playful humor to more personal subjects. As the soft breeze danced among the trees, Elizabeth decided to bring up something meaningful. "I've been working on not letting doubts control me so much," she said, taking a deep breath. "Today, I feel really good about myself. Being with you, it feels safe." Henry felt a familiar warmth wash over him. "I've noticed a change in you, too. I think reconnecting with your art helped bring you back to life, didn't it?" Elizabeth grew animated, excitement glowing in her voice. "Absolutely. It reminded me of who I am. And it also reminded me that I need to put myself first at times. Instead of looking for validation from the outside, I can give it to myself." Henry's smile grew wider. He felt proud of her for realizing such an important lesson and making an effort to apply it in her life. That's so amazing, Elizabeth. You really inspire me, he said, reaching for her hands. The touch anchored them both, a beautiful symbol of how far they had come. Taking a moment, Henry found the courage to express his own feelings. And I've been working on trusting more. I realized that I don't need to be perfect, he reflected. It's okay to show vulnerability with you too. I know now that being open is part of being strong. While they sat on the soft blanket together, their hearts felt light, almost untouchable. There was a deep understanding beneath the surface, a bond forged through healing and support. They found solace in knowing they could face vulnerabilities, tackle emotions, and share in their truths. Before long, the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the world in spectacular hues of orange and pink. They leaned back on the blanket side by side, looking up at the sky. I feel different, Elizabeth admitted softly. Not just in our relationship, but within myself. I'm more at peace now. Me too, Henry replied, his voice hushed with sincerity. It feels good to know I can be real without fear. I'll always choose to share my emotions, my strengths, and my flaws with you. For the first time in a long while, both felt completely free as thoughts translated into words without hesitation. The connection between them had transformed into a loving bond, drenched in trust. As they gazed into each other's eyes, they saw not just their reflections, but a sense of hope, a promise filled with love, that they would stand by each other regardless of life's challenges ahead. They knew that life would not always be easy, that storms would sometimes come. Still, in that moment, they found a refuge, together, a safe space forged by understanding, love, and the resilience to tackle whatever lay before them. As the seasons changed, so did Elizabeth and Henry's relationship. They had come a long way from the stormy arguments and misunderstandings that once marred their connection. Now, their bond felt stronger than ever, grounded in open communication and mutual support. Both were learning to embrace each other's individuality while nurturing their shared dreams. One beautiful, sun-drenched morning, Elizabeth found herself painting in the park again, the soft sounds of nature around her serving as a joyful backdrop. She felt a rush of excitement as she brushed vibrant colors across the canvas, letting her creativity flow freely. It was one of the many ways she had embraced the lessons she learned, combining her passion with self-love. As she painted, she glanced over her shoulder and spotted Henry approaching, a wide smile on his face that lit up the whole space. He always seemed to find time to cheer her on these days. That looks amazing. You're truly talented, he exclaimed, his voice brimming with genuine admiration. Elizabeth felt warmth wash over her as she set down her paintbrush. Thanks. I feel great doing this, she replied, her laughter echoing in the air. I've been meaning to share something with you, too. Henry raised an eyebrow, curiosity sparkling in his eyes. What's on your mind? Taking a deep breath, Elizabeth picked up her notebook filled with her thoughts and reflections from their journey. I wrote down some goals for us to work on, together, she said with a shy smile. Some things that would actually help us grow as a team. Henry's excitement bubbled. I'd love to hear about them. As she shared her ideas, which included taking a weekend trip to reconnect with nature and making time for regular date nights, Henry could feel their shared dreams solidifying. They were no longer hesitant to dream, instead, they embraced the thrill of planning their future together. It's great to have plans that involve adventure, Henry said, beaming. And making sure we keep nurturing each other's passions? That's so important. I can't wait to explore this next chapter with you. Elizabeth's heart fluttered at his words. They were evolving together, recognizing how vital it was to prioritize their individual dreams while creating beautiful memories. They were learning to support each other as both partners and friends, part of a united team. After that conversation in the park, they decided to cross off one of Elizabeth's goals right away. Hand in hand, they strolled toward an art exhibit that featured local artists. As they admired the artwork, a cozy sense of unity wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Suddenly, Henry stopped and turned to face Elizabeth. I want you to know this, you are my safe space. I realize that loving you means always working together, pushing each other to grow, and celebrating when we do. He took a heartfelt breath before adding, I love you, and I believe in us. Tears of happiness brimmed in Elizabeth's eyes, and her chest swelled with love. I feel the same way. This is just the beginning for us. Her heart pounded with renewed strength and joy, providing clear evidence of how far they had both come. As they left the gallery, they emerged back into the vibrant world outside hand in hand. The sun shone higher in the sky, illuminating their path as they walked forward. Elizabeth felt rooted in confidence, and Henry felt buoyed by hope. Together, they stepped into a bright future full of promise, unstoppable as a team, both individually and jointly, equipped with skills to face whatever challenges may come. With dreams in their hearts, they held on to the belief that guiding each other through life's obstacles would lead them closer, always evolving, loving, and cherishing one another more deeply with each step.